The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus departed from there and came to his native place, accompanied by his disciples. When the Sabbath came, he began to teach in the synagogue, and many who heard him were astonished. They said, "Where did this man get all this? What kind of wisdom has been given him? What mighty deeds are wrought by his hands? Is he not the carpenter, the son of Mary, and the brother of James and Joses and Judas and Simon? Are not his sisters here with us?" And they took offense at him. Jesus said to them, "A prophet is not without honor except in his native place and among his own kin and in his own house." So he was not able to perform any mighty deed there, apart from curing a few sick people by laying his hands on them. He was amazed at their lack of faith. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Very few people had ever heard of this person until she appeared as a contestant on the TV program Britain's Got Talent on April 11th, 2009. As this 47-year-old woman, born and raised in Scotland, made her way to the stage, the judges for the contest, as well as the audience, could barely conceal their amusement. This has got to be a joke, people were thinking. What is this frumpy and frankly unattractive woman even doing here? This is an embarrassment. When asked by one of the judges why she waited so long to make her debut, Susan Boyle said she hadn't had the chance before. Then, amid the snickers of the audience, she began to sing, "I Dreamed a Dream" from Les Miserables. In an instant, skepticism changed into astonishment as Boyle's beautiful voice delivered note after note. The shocked audience stood and applauded wildly. Many have seen this incident when she appeared. How many of you have seen that video of her doing this? It's amazing. Following her response, an international media and internet response immediately exploded. With the 9 days of her performance, videos of Susan Boyle had been watched by over 100 million people. And her first album was released 7 months later and debuted as the #1 best-selling album around the globe. Susan Boyle had initially been judged unfairly by those who assumed they knew what to expect from her. 3 days after that broadcast on English television, a writer for a Scottish newspaper called Boyle's story a modern parable and a rebuke to the human tendency to judge others based on physical appearance, making presuppositions about who they truly are and what they are capable of. The tendency to judge others unfairly, however, is not a new phenomenon. In this morning's gospel, Jesus' hometown friends and neighbors were sure they knew him. They had him pegged as the carpenter's son, and they became offended when he startled them and proved their assessment of him to be lacking. They were resentful that he might be more than they gave him credit for. Who does this Jesus think he is? After all, he's just one of us, nobody special. Didn't Joseph teach him how to be a carpenter? Didn't Mary teach him how to bake bread? Didn't one of his cousins, Josie's, teach him how to throw a ball? What could Jesus possibly know that we don't know? What could Jesus possibly add to our knowledge of God? Jesus' response to them, "A prophet is not without honor except in his native place and among his own kin and in his own house," rings as true today as it did during Jesus' ministry. Unfortunately, these tendencies continue to divide us, especially when we are familiar with the other person, a family member perhaps, or a friend or a coworker. We tend to think we know all about them, how they'll behave, what to expect, how they'll always be. As a consequence, we are not open to growth or surprises or new discoveries. But this tendency goes beyond family, friends, people we know. When someone looks a certain way, or whose skin is a particular color, or dresses differently from the way we do, or is covered with tattoos or body piercings, we assume we know what kind of person he or she is. And too often, we are unwilling to let that person be greater than our opinions of them. When she walked onto that stage to perform that April 11th in 2009, the judges and the audience had written Susan Boyle off because of her age, her weight, and her frumpy appearance. When Jesus walked onto that stage of public ministry in Nazareth, his friends and his neighbors did the same thing because they believed he was nothing special and would never be anything more than a simple carpenter, and surely never a prophet. Our gospel this morning and Susan Boyle's story are indeed parables and a rebuke to that human tendency to judge others based on physical appearance, making presuppositions about who they are and what they can accomplish. Let us be ever open to the people whom God places in our lives. If we but open our minds and our hearts to God's grace, they can reveal to us God's love, God's mercy, and God's beauty.